That's funny.
That's 100.
Gabio.
Wow.
Gabo. I was born in London. I'm Puerto Rican. Both my parents, Bori. My father is more of like the Portuguese, Puerto Rican side. My mother's Afro-Caribbean side, right? I grew up in Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, in Camden, New Jersey, Pensacola, New Jersey. And I was there up until I went to grad school. From there, I was Boston. Boston was a love of like where I really got into my career in architecture. That's where I studied architecture. After some time there, developed my voice in architecture. That's where I started my art career. I did my first solo show in Boston. It was in my house. My show was about like really understanding paintings through other mediums, right? And so whether you were looking at a painting and you're like, these were lyrics of a song. Hear the song, look at the painting. Or it was like, hey, I'm writing this poem. This poem now inspired this art piece, and I want you to see this sort of like one art form informing another.
My art experience is really informed by music, so
Yeah.
I totally relate to that. When I edit my photos, I have to listen to some music.
Well, I'm like low-key, like everyone's art is inspired by something, and for me, I like to be very direct of like what is inspiring my actual piece, right? I'm like, that's part of how I describe the art itself. In room 15, where I'm at right now, Hotel Crocodile, each one of those coats is a story. Each one of those coats has a narrative that goes along with it that says this is where all this came from.
So let's talk about your collection. What's the name of your collection today?
Oh, the name of my collection. You know what? There's not a name of the collection, right? Each piece has its own name and title for the piece. However, all of my work for me is ancestral future. And by ancestral future, what I mean is that I'm taking something that is traditional, painting, sewing, hand craftsmanship, like an old school skill that I'm using, and then I'm bringing that into a digital futuristic narrative. Whether I'm now 3D printing something or laser cutting something, or you put your phone to it and there's some augmented reality experience with it. What I'm doing with my work is about futurism and past and these narratives that come together. So today it's the coats, right? So these coats are a sort of path and a vision of like fashion. How do you talk about Taino culture in a way that's like, I'm not here to just like sit you down and like tell you the whole story, but I want you to see the visuals. I want you to see the symbolism. I want you to understand the textiles. I want you to experience Taino ways. So like, I want you to understand how to receive us visually sometimes. And I think fashion does that for me. There's other forms of art that I use that go deeper into the narratives and into like more of like an educational way of understanding my identity. But at the end of the day, like fashion for me is another canvas to just tell stories, right? I do that through mural work. I do that through, again, something that's maybe like, yes, fashion, but maybe it's just like a bag that I'm making, right? Like I just did this bag that is featured at Home Team Gallery in Pioneer Square right now. And that bag was like one solid piece of canvas that for me was this specific style of painting. And I didn't chop up that canvas. What I did was I strategically folded it into a bag that had these leather details. And now you're walking around with like a physical piece of art. And then with that bag, you put your phone to it and then it starts being animated. What that painting was a reflection. It was a self-portrait. It was a moment where I became really confident in surfing and really confident in using my body and being in the water and feeling like, this is something that I want to go for, that I've always wanted to go for. And I'm painting that. And I take that painting that is very personal. I then, again, fold it up into like this cute little duffel bag. And now you put your phone to it and the surfer is animating, and that's me surfing and me, you experiencing a moment in my life that's very personal, right? So that's where ancestral future kind of evolves into, where it's like I did the painting, I did the sewing, and then through your phone you're gonna experiencing like this animation. So like mixing those things together for me is crucial, and no matter what kind of art form I do, right?
I like that. I like that how your engineering background really informs your art, but also the fact that you want to talk about like Taino culture, because that is something that has, let's be frank, has been erased.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not federally recognized. That's something that's trying to happen. Like, don't even get me started on like anything that is about preservation of our culture. the use of our land, looking at Vieques, looking at other islands off of our, like, it's just, we used to have an ecosystem of islands in the Caribbean that were so hyper connected. And this is something that for me is what futurism looks like. Like, what is that vision of like us holding our ground in a certain way? And it's just hard to envision that with like current administration, current fucking life, things that are happening right now. Like, it's hard to envision that, but that did happen. That was a thing. And I like to hold on to that and this vision of the future to say that that was a thing at one point. There's nothing that says that that can't come back in certain ways where the Caribbean islands are stronger than where we are right now. But also, I want to be very clear that like these narratives should never sort of be sort of diluted in any way. Like, I want to like rise up to these narratives and bring them into future narratives as well.
You don't have a name for your collection, but each piece it's unique, has its own story. So what's your favorite piece from this collection today?
Beheaded. Beheaded was my first really big art project with hand beadwork. Heath Lee is a friend of mine who is Cherokee Indigenous from Oklahoma, and he has grown up doing a lot of hand beadwork. He's showing a coat today, and I showed two homies today. Again, two people that really kind of like took me where I'm at right now, just specifically with the coats, right? Like, Merck was another actualized artist. I'm an artist resident at Actualize on 5th and Pike. And so he's another artist in residence that is there, like, creating his custom garments from scratch, right? So I'm learning how to do different types of alterations to coats because what I'm showcasing are these upcycled coats with my, like, embellishment and my hand beadwork on top of that,
so
right?
So they're upcycled.
All those coats, like, there are one's from Buffalo Exchange, another one is from somewhere in Portland, another one is from another one that is in Vancouver. All those coats are just upcycled, right? And so I look at them and I have this, I'm not going to say hoarder obsession, but there is a collection of coats that I have that I look at, I'm like, you're going to be a canvas for an idea. And so actually just recently I got one from right across the street from Actualize. There's another vintage shop that I ended up getting a coat from that I'm like, that's going to be a coat for something. But yeah, so all of my coats specifically, I don't make them myself. But what I do is all that hand beadwork, and I attach that hand beadwork to it, right? And so Beheaded for me is important because that was my baby. That was my first. And also,
it's beautiful.
That's when I realized I was obsessed with the beadwork. I am not a patient person. I am not someone who loves like slow, meticulous, but it was so that in a way that like I loved it. And I can't explain it. Oil painting, I'm not fucking with. I'm sorry. That is not the style of art. And I can do it, but I don't have the patience for it. I like acrylic. I like things that I have an industrial sewing machine because I can get in there, take some leather, take some jean and do a thing. Like this jacket, like very rough. Like I don't have to be like so precise. Like I can just like be messy with it. And there's an end result immediately, right? Like this jacket is like perfect for that, right? But man, beadwork is one of those things that threw me off because it is so meticulous. I'm here like counting beads by the 6th, going into it on the 3rd, going out, and like I'm doing my whole technique, and I learned that from Heath. But also it brought in other skills. So Beheaded is like this face, and I'm a figure drawer. I used to draw just draw. And I used to draw a lot of like people and like shades and everything. And like right now, I actually have a piece at CAM here for Belltown Art Walk, and that one's all of like my hand sketches of like my body and like bones and muscles, really detailed anatomical like work of like drawing. Right, that's a whole different side of my brain that I'd love to do and execute with drawing. And so when I got into beadwork, I was able to like look at the beads and like just understand shading. And I was like, oh, the jaw structure. Oh, the cheekbones. Oh, we're going to pop it over here like with the eyelashes. And it was like, I'm using the same mentality of like how I do figure drawing with charcoal and with graphite. And I'm looking at those shading techniques as I'm hand beading. So like I didn't sketch that piece out and was like, I'm going to draw this face. It was like I started with an eyeball and I was like, the eyeball's cute. I'm going to keep going. And now we got some cheekbones and now we got the eyebrow and now we got the lips and like now we got the profile. And then I got dramatic and was like, now hair. And I was like, let's bead all of this hair. The way I regretted that decision someday.
No, it came
so
out so
much.
beautiful because I love the way it dangles off the coat. It's like
The fringe of it all.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So do you feel more connected to your Taino roots when you're doing more beadwork?
You know, beadwork is interesting because it's not something that's inherently Taino, right? But what I am doing is telling stories, right? And so that woman who I'm depicting, those are my aunties, those are my cousins. It looks like my niece. It looks like my grandmother. It is a woman, and I was raised by women, right? Like I grew up in a house that was my sisters, my female cousins, my mother, my grandmothers. Like I didn't grow up around men; they were not around. That was the thing. But these women, like, really just were the narrative of my life. They're like how I just became to be, and so. Women play a really big role in this sort of like matriarchy identity. I think Puerto Rican culture, first of all, try to talk backwards to a Puerto Rican mother. Like, it's just, there's just such a strong sort of sense of being with Puerto Rican women that I absolutely love. And sometimes frightening. I love to see like how powerful that actually is and how much it influenced my life. This jacket is called Abuela's Love.
Aww.
Abuela's Love comes from these little flowers, like these embroidered flowers. I saw this in the houses of like my grandmothers. I would just see like from the doilies, like the whatever you were sitting on, some little thing that was on the couch for no reason. Like I don't know what these textiles were, but they were everywhere. And like they were subtle, but also like I just remember those details. So I was in LA and I went to this store and it was like quinceañera or whatever. And I was like, the number of quinceañeras I've been to, and I was leading the dancing.
Okay.
Like, first of all,
Let's talk about that.
Suavemente, well, what this just drained in my head. This symbol of abuela is like bursting out of the jacket. And it's almost like the stitching and the leather is like so harsh, but like the floral is bursting out of it. And for me, these jackets are just kind of like a hug. But, you know, my abuela spoke Spanish and I didn't. But it was very much intuitive. It was a lot of like hugs and like just caressing and just like really like body language and just like really like holding space and being there and spending time with them where love was shown in abundance. Each one has their own narrative, and like that's what I like about art is that I'm able to create something that feels really personal, but also like visually, like I'm gonna give you this like surrealistic like sort of world of where this could all exist, right?
I love that. I can relate to that. Like being one of those, like they call them no sabo kids, but like struggling with Spanish, like understanding it very well, but having a hard time articulating it.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I relate to that because it's like I remember my grandmother giving me love, you know, there was no judgment. It's just having that communication of love through touch is so important growing up as a child, you know, especially around strong women. I mean, they're an influence in our lives, but also in our art. And I love that you said that.
Absolutely. An abundance in my art. Even just like the cooking, just everything, right? Like it's just, so Abuela's Love are the jackets. Beheaded for me was interesting because again, it was an exploration of beadwork that just was so extra. like, I could have ended that project whenever. And the things, I had no end goal. I just wanted to explore and experiment. And, you know, I was in a place where I didn't feel like I could do that for a while. And finally getting to a moment of my life where I do feel like I can just be an artist just to be an artist, not for any other goal or any other sort of reason. I just want to create some shit that I want to create. And, like, that's it. I don't even, like, I'm not over here, like, selling a bunch of stuff in my place. Like, in my room, you go there. If you want to get a piece, cute. You're dropping a couple K. Like,
as you should.
Like, that's it. Like, this jacket even, I'm like, this is cute, but this is actually not for sale. But I will grab one of your, I will grab one of your jackets and do something similar. I will talk to you. What is a narrative that's important to you?
I love that. So you do custom?
I do custom. That's all I do. That's actually all I do, right?
Oh,
like, that's mostly what I do, right? One of my boys that I shout out today was Justin Lega, and like he's one that's really been pushing a lot of my custom work in a way where it's like, this is my story. Like, this jacket is me. Like, if you resonate with it, like, if you got a tia or like whatever, like buy the jacket. Like, you can actually buy this off my body right now. Like, that's fine. But
for the right price.
I'm like, for the right price. But what I love more is that you're like, I got this jacket that means a lot to me. And, this is something that I would love to see embellished in some way. My mother likes these kind of flowers. My father was XYZ. I love zebras. I don't fucking know. Whatever's your life, I would love to just like customize something for you that makes you feel like how I feel wearing this, right? And so that's where I lean into a lot of my work. I get a lot of custom orders in that way where someone's like, I see that you do the bead stuff, you do the painting stuff, and you're doing some like little hand thing over here. I want to commission you to do this, that, and the other, right? And so that's where I get most of my income from, or like my artistic income from, is from just doing custom work.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. If you want to take a look into the camera and say something to the Seattle people, either Latino people or just people in Seattle about your art or just about comunidad, let them know.
Hey, Seattle. My name is Gabriel Bello Diaz. And just come experience all of art in Seattle in general. My art for sure, but seriously, like there's so many beautiful things happening in Seattle, and it just requires for you to just get out there and just come to spaces like Hotel Crocodile, who are facilitating amazing programming. And that's happening all downtown. That's happening all around Seattle. Don't sleep on it. Come join us.
Don't sleep on it. Come join us and my thing fell off.
Eh.